Hey friends, my name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. And today it's all about the CanEVER ZeroUno DAC HPA. It's a mouthful. But you know what? It's three components in one. It is a DAC. It's primarily a DAC, but it's also a preamplifier and it's also a headphone amplifier. But first of all, it's a DAC, and it is based on the CanEVER DAC that Art Dudley reviewed in Stereophile, I think in 2017. And you know, Art's not exactly a digital guy, but reading that review, you could tell he really liked that DAC. It was hitting all the happy buttons for him. And I know that Andy Singer here in New York City is a dealer for CanEVER, and he's kind of fussy about DACs. So even though I never heard of CanEVER, I took the plunge. Now it's an Italian company, and you can tell. Looking at this thing, it doesn't look like a normal DAC, right? It's a unique look. It's kind of retro, it's kind of Euro modern, it's just different, but in a really appealing way. And it feels great, that knob, that volume control knob, it has that feel. And I do have a thing about products that feel good. Now the thing is, it's one of those high-end audio pieces. I did mention that it was designed and made in Italy, right? And there's no doubt about its Italian-ness. It's very Italian. It's quirky, is what I'm saying here, right? It's designed by engineers, and I would say almost designed to be used by engineers, because the interface isn't exactly the best part of it. But I got used to it. It wasn't that big a deal. But getting used to it took some time. Again, this is a tricky piece to review because what is it? Now, I listen to it as a DAC most of the time because I think that's really why people buy it, is for the sound of the DAC. So even if you're not into headphones, keep watching this video because the sound is just so ripe, tubey, with no tubes inside, but it has a tube-like quality to me. It has that thing. It makes recordings sound better than they really are. User interface is, as I said, not so great. And the remote, this is the remote. It's an Apple remote. Super simple, but I don't know. It's not my thing. So, but again, you get used to these things. But it's the design. Now, when I'm showing you these pictures of the interior of the CanEVER DAC, you can tell, even if you're not an engineer, this doesn't look like an ordinary layout. You'll see those transformers. There's all these transformers. So there's different transformers handling different parts of the DAC circuit and different parts of the analog circuit. It's a multi-layer construction. Again, these guys at CanEVER didn't take the normal route. Now it does use a Sabre DAC, an ESS Sabre DAC. That's not so unusual. But everything else about it, like how the filtering works and the analog section, that's where the magic happens in this piece. So it does do DSD up to 128, and it is an MQA DAC. Now, I'm not the biggest supporter of MQA for all sorts of reasons, but I did spend some quality time listening to MQA over Tidal streaming. I couldn't get MQA encoded CDs from Chesky and was it 2L to play MQA over this DAC. I may have missed something and had to do it, but I couldn't get it done. But MQA over Tidal was a breeze. And you know what? It sounded really good. It did. So showing you the back panel, well, it's pretty straightforward. There's 4 inputs. There's coax, there's optical, there's USB, and XLR AES EBU. There are DAC outputs that are just straight DAC without a volume control. And then there's RCA outputs that you can use to drive powered speakers or a power amplifier. There's optional XLR balanced outputs that are basically configured with transformers to make them balanced outputs. Front panel has 2 headphone jacks, 6.3 millimeter standard headphone jack, and also a balanced 4-pin XLR for balanced headphones. Again, pretty straightforward. So I do want to praise the owner's manual, by the way, which is extremely informative, very well written, and very, very helpful, and gives you lots of insights into the design of the DAC and why it is the way it is. So again, though it has a Sabre DAC, everything else about the design feels fresh and new to me. It's not another Me Too DAC. Yeah, no, it's really pretty cool. Oh, the price. You're thinking, hey, Steve, it's made in Italy. It's really beautiful. It's very high end. What does it cost? $6,500 in the USA. Now, I did spend some time comparing it as a DAC with my Denafreps Terminator, plain Terminator, not the Terminator Plus. Terminator is my reference. It's like my main go-to DAC. The CanEVER DAC was definitely at least as transparent as the Terminator, which is saying a lot, but it had, the tone was better. There was a richer quality to it. Like I said, if you would have told me this was a tube DAC, I would believe you, because it has that kind of roundness to the sound. It's musical in the best sense of the word. That counts for a lot. So if you want strict neutrality, I wouldn't say this would be the top choice, but if you want some sweetening in the best sense of the word, the CanEVER is a pretty serious piece of work. So one piece of music I used for this review was Carlos Cipra's Correlations on 11 pianos. So yes, there were 11 different pianos used to make this album. And there's pianos from the 1800s, there's contemporary pianos, some are very ambient sounding, some of them sound like they're transcriptions of something. But the differences from track to track, because they were recorded under different circumstances, just jump out of the deck. The dynamics of how Carlos is hitting the keys, you really feel that over this DAC. You're in the room, basically, is what I'm saying here. And it has that kind of intimacy with really good tone. Now this recording, Carlos' recording, varies in terms of its quality from track to track. But when the recording has it, that sense of piano scale, the CanEVER DAC will really clue you into it. Of course, I had to use some recordings that I was intimately familiar with, in other words, Chesky's, that I was present at the session, and I pulled out some Sarah Kay. Now, Sarah Kay recorded for Chesky in the early 90s. It's a long time ago. But when I play these tracks, I really, I don't want to say I was time traveling, because I say that all the time, but there's something about Sarah Kay's voice and the way she pours herself into that microphone. She's a very uninhibited singer. She just lets it go. She's a folk singer. She's not a soul singer, but it's just really, really intense. And it was so, it really got her voice. I remember this. I remember how much I loved her. You know, a lot of times you hear, you know, in those days, artists send demos to Chesky and we would listen to different things. Yeah, they're okay, they're okay, they're okay. And then you hear somebody who has a voice like Sarah Kay's and you go, yes, that one. We should make records with her. It's that kind of deal. So anyway, Sarah's voice came through the Cornwall 4s and I was a very, very happy camper. So for a bit of contrast, I played Lucinda Williams' Ghost of Highway 20. Not an audiophile recording. But Lucinda Williams is an amazing singer. I mean, she's got some grit. She's not letting anything go, you know. I mean, it's odd to hear a woman rock singer who's got that kind of intensity and depth. She's not that she's a screamer. It's just that you feel her gut through the recording. I love that. This is one of her best later recordings. But it's very compressed, very obviously so, certainly compared to Sarah Kay. But it's still enjoyable because in a different way that Lucinda is just so raunchy. You know, she's just powerful in that way. And it is a total trip. And to have those two back-to-back, Sarah Kay and Lucinda Williams, it just said, you know, this DAC has that ability to just pull that music out, that sound out of the zeros and ones and present it here in my listening room. So one day I'm tripping around on Qobuz and I find Cosmo Sheldon. I don't know if that's his real name, but it's a cool name. I wish I made that up. And anyway, Cosmo is quirky, a quirky electronic artist, but he has a thing about birds. So there's this album called Wake Up Calls, and it's sounds of birds with what Cosmo's contributing is this organ keyboard. I don't know what the source of the keyboard sound is. I don't know if it's a real organ or, but in any case, and the organ is not exactly mimicking the sounds of the birds, but it's certainly accompanying them. And it's just an amazing recording. I love this music that he's making. It's so peaceful and mesmerizing and just pulls you in and it puts you in a different place. Really, really special. Most of his music isn't really available in physical form, but I did note that Wake Up Calls, which I guess is his newest album, is on LP in a limited run of 500 discs. But getting it from the UK here, it's another story. But anyway, Cosmo's got his act together. He's an odd duck. He just is. He's, you know, it's so great when you stumble upon a musician who's doing something that feels completely fresh. And he's a young guy. I think he's still in his 20s. And yet he creates a world, you know, just really, really special sound. Good, really good sounding recording, by the way. So check that out. And again, the CanEVER made the magic come through. It really, really did. So the thing is, this is a headphone amplifier, and it is actually a very serious headphone amplifier. I used my Abyss Diana 5s, high-end planar magnetic open-back headphone, especially with the Cosmo records where it just sort of, those bird sounds were just all around me. Huge, holographic, big, big sound. I also used my Audeze LCD X's, which brought the sound much closer in, but I like that too. It was more intimate. I used my Grado hemp headphones, which are much more affordable, just classic dynamic headphone from Grado. And in every case, I was impressed with the ability of this amplifier, this headphone amplifier, because a lot of times headphone amplifiers on DACs are just sort of thrown in. It's a whatever. Now this is a serious headphone amplifier. That's all I got. My name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. If you dig what I'm doing, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. There's plenty of room for you here. We're coming up on 150,000 subscribers, but I'd love to include you if you haven't already. And if you have subscribed, thank you so much for doing so. But there's also the Patreon, which can be found at patreon.com/audiophiliac. I will link to that below. But while you're here, check out playlists. We got playlists for headphone reviews and electronics reviews, which include DACs, speaker reviews, headphone, all kinds of cool stuff, and of course interviews. So yeah, I think I'm good. I think my work here is at last complete. Thank you again for watching, and I really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.